You're in the place where mysteries and the missing meet, where conspiracies lurk around every corner. Welcome to the Deep, Dark Truth.
Welcome back to the Deep Dark Truth. I'm Posh Spice.
I'm Sporty Spice.
I'm Scary Spice. And she's Cockney now. Hi.
This is our Spice Girls fan fiction, where they have the wrong accents and a true crime
Oh my
podcast.
god, this is everything 12-year-old me wanted.
Today we're talking about Rasputin.
So I'm really excited to talk about Rasputin because it was on my
I am too.
original list of topics that I wanted to cover.
That's too much pressure. Today, we're going to focus solely on his death because that's all people want to talk about. Anyone who's Googling Rasputin wants to know what's the deal with his death. So let's fuck all the fluff, and we're just going to talk about how he died. Let's get started. Once was a certain man who lived in Russia long ago. Already, first sentence already has a disclaimer because the way the dates are written, the calendar switched at some point. So the night he was murdered was either December 16th, 1916 or December 30th, 1916. I'm pretty sure what we would call December 30th is when he died, not what we would call December 16th. So the story of Rasputin's death is the most fantastical version goes like this. He was poisoned and felt nothing. So then his would-be murderers, his thus far failed murderers, shoot him and he falls dead. But then he gets back up and he attacks them and then runs out the door to escape, and they shoot him again and they think he's dead again. But then he's still not dead, so then they beat the shit out of him, and he's still not dead. And then they throw him in a river, and sometimes he comes out still alive. Most of the time, he drowns in the river. 99% of it isn't true.
I have never heard either of those.
Oh yeah, no, he was super murdered. That is not untrue.
No, focused on, I guess, when I was looking into it.
You are the exception to this rule.
Really?
I think.
I feel like the Romanov
everyone,
curse is the thing that people focus on.
I meant specifically for him.
I feel like that's his relevance.
His relevance is a song in the 70s, 80s?
I feel like Anastasia is his relevance.
Okay, I was going to ask if you two are too old for Anastasia.
Absolutely not.
What? No,
you were
absolutely
too old
not.
for Road to El Dorado.
Who? Who is too old for Eldorado?
I was.
You,
Not you.
isn't he technically old?
Yeah, but
I've experienced all of Disney. I don't think there's very many films I have not seen.
Neither of those are Disney. Not a single one of those is Disney.
But
animated
Same thing.
movies,
Same.
he still watches them as they come out. I've never seen
Turning Red.
Tangled.
I'm not criticizing.
Did Anastasia come out in 1998? What year did this come out?
97, 98, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I was 10 or 11. I was old.
You were dismissive of Road to El Dorado.
Yeah, but Road to El Dorado came out 3 years later, and I was in junior high then. So for me, it's the difference between still being in elementary school and being in junior high.
It is. Especially in baby Moe's head.
Yeah.
So yeah, people our age do have Anastasia as their main touchstone. But next on the Rasputin list, I think, is his death. Comments, let me know. All those details that I included aren't usually all in one. The source of the main storyline is Yusupov, who is one of the men who killed him. He wrote about it in it was one memoir that he edited and republished like 20 years later. So we'll go over his account first, and then I get to tell you why he's lying. Probably. December 30th, probably, 1916 in St. Petersburg. Felix Yusupov, and it's, Romanized 10 million different ways, so we're going with Yusupov, invites Rasputin over to his house in order to meet his wife. He's invited over, it's going to be about midnight, and everyone around Rasputin is like, that's kind of late. That's weird. Why are you going over there so late?
Threesome. Sorry.
Oh, you don't know.
Oh,
there's accusations to be had.
Well, because they seem true. I only know one thing so far.
The excuse that Yusupov gives Rasputin, and thus Rasputin gives everyone else, is that it's to avoid Yusupov's parents-in-law. It felt unclear which was the real answer. I think it was his parents, not his wife's parents. Supposedly, this same day, word gets back to the Tsarina Alexandra, who is besties with Rasputin, and she's like, that's weird, because his wife is out of town and his parents are out of town. Ah, well. So, around midnight-ish, Yusupov comes over to Rasputin's apartment and escorts him to Yusupov's house, which is actually his parents' house, which is currently being renovated of the murder, and that's part of the reason that his parents were out of town. But he escorts Rasputin down to the wine cellar, where he and his little murder friends have set up a corner of the room, like partitioned off, to make it look like it is a room that people live in, not just a piece of a cellar. They've spent the day decorating it with fancy rugs. There's specifically a bear rug and a Persian rug, and there's vases, and there's all the fancy furniture. They have made it look like normal people sit here. They are playing, this is very specifically cited, there's a gramophone upstairs playing various lively tunes, one of which is Yankee Doodle Dandy.
I forget how recent this history was.
They've done up this little fake apartment room, sort of as a sitting room, and the gramophone up there is playing little ditties, and Rasputin's like, hey, what the heck's up there? I thought we were being, quiet about this. And he's like, oh, my wife just has some friends over and they'll be gone soon. The murder friends have set out some lovely cakes and wine, which they have laced with cyanide, which, of course, we offer to Rasputin, and with Yusupov's story, he eats them, and he eats the cakes, and he drinks the wine, and nothing happens. And Yusupov is horrified secretly, or trying to hold it in, because he's just eaten enough cyanide to kill more than one man instantly. Several men instantly.
He got a bad dealer. He went to a bad dealer of cyanide. There was like a drop of cyanide.
Well, I mean, was it uncommon practice for people like him and into mysticism and like that, knowing that he could build up a tolerance over time and become, I mean, that was common for people in power. You know what I mean?
I didn't see anything that said like he was secretly building up a tolerance. He was he was vaccinating himself, as it were. I didn't see that. That doesn't mean it's not true.
I was just going to say that is true. That was really common. I wasn't even thinking about that.
So we have what I'm referring to as the murder friends. So we have our main character, who isn't Rasputin, Felix Yusupov. He is a prince. Felix Yusupov, he's married to the Tsar's niece. He's, technically in line, the way everyone's related and incestual. The fun fact that we won't get too much, Rasputin sometimes referred to the Tsar as Papa and Alexandra as Mama.
I am infuriated that I've never heard that.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
Or whatever the Russian version of mom and dad are. It is always translated as, like, mama, not mom. Felix Yusupov. Then we've got Grand Duke Dmitry Pavlovich.
Pavlovich.
It's Russian. He's a Grand Duke. I'm not really sure who he's married to or related. He's a surprisingly minor of importance, really. And we've got Vladimir Perishkevich. He's a politician, not related to anyone, and is super right-wing. The Wikipedia describes him as a loose cannon, so he's very vocal. Felix approached him about murdering Rasputin after Vladimir made a particularly loud speech about fuck that guy, he's corrupting the entire nation.
Is there something that particularly...
Not like just one act, it's like, oh, that guy is too close to the Tsar and Tsarina, and loose cannon Perishkevich. Then we've got Stanislas de Lazovert. Pretty sure he's a doctor. It became unclear at one point which one was the doctor and which one wasn't. Pretty sure it's Lazovert is the doctor. Then you've got Sergei Sukhotin, who is an army officer. He's there. Him and Pavlovich are just sort of there. And then we've got, finally, Vasily Maklikov. He is an associate of the murder friends. He won't be there on the night of the murder. Yusupov approaches him, and Maklikov is like, no, I won't take part in that, but I'll be your defense lawyer. So, I got you, boo.
Great. So if you do this crime, don't worry about it, because I'm going to be your lawyer.
I can't go about murdering people. I'm kind of old. But I can offer you some advice.
It's hard to say how many things I would jokingly say to my friends if I was the lawyer, really.
Some accounts say that the lawyer, Maklikov, is the one who gives the cyanide to Yusupov.
Lawyer, Maklikov, dealer. Got you.
The dealer provided Yusupov with the supposed cyanide. It is Lazovert, the supposed doctor, who cuts open the cakes wearing gloves and sprinkles enough cyanide to kill multiple people. And also in the wine, Rasputin supposedly gobbles it all up and is fine. So around 2:30, Yusupov excuses himself upstairs to go check on his wife, and he goes meets with all his murder friends, everyone I listed except Maklikov, and is like, ah! He takes Perishkevich's gun, Perishkevich being the loose cannon politician. Yusupov takes loose cannon's gun downstairs, and goes back to Rasputin, and he's staring at a cross that they put up in this little display room that they made, and he said something to the effect of, "You far better look at the crucifix and say a prayer." And then he shoots Rasputin once in the chest. The doctor, Lazovert, checks him over and says, this guy is dead. So it's Lazovert, Pavlovich, and Sukhotin then drive back to Rasputin's place with Sukhotin wearing Rasputin's coat. So if anyone was watching, they're like, oh, Rasputin went home fine. Clearly he wasn't murdered in that house.
Okay.
Interesting.
And so Yusupov and the loose cannon go upstairs and are waiting for them to return from their little sneaky drive. After, we'll say an hour, that's sort of how he estimates it is, Yusupov's like, I got a bad feeling about this. I'm gonna go downstairs and look at that dead body. Goes downstairs, he looks at that dead body, and that dead body eyes pop open, and he attacks Yusupov, which is, fair if you were just murdered.
Right.
Of all the things, I totally justify attacking your murderer.
I already have so many theories, I feel like.
Toss them out now. We're in the fiction land right now, so say everything you want.
I think the lawyer was joking, was like, oh yeah, I'll defend you in court, and didn't give them real cyanide, and thought it was funny. And was not expecting, was like, oh, well, if they ever do go through with it, it's not going to work. So, joke's on you. I think Rasputin, he held his breath, and the doctor was just like, he's not breathing, he's dead. And was just pretending to be dead because they hit him somewhere non-fatally. So, at this point, I believe he has no cyanide in his system, and he has been shot, but he's been shot somewhere where he's injured and it's non-lethal. That's my belief in the current timeline that we're in.
And round one, we're at no poison. In Yusupov's memoir, he writes, at this point when he is being attacked by Rasputin, this devil who was dying of poison, who had a bullet in his heart, must have been raised from the dead by the powers of evil. There was something appalling and monstrous in his diabolical refusal to die. I realize now who Rasputin really was. It was the reincarnation of Satan himself, who held me in his clutches and would never let me go till my dying day.
So he attempted to murder and then actually murdered, and he's just like, it's fine because he was Satan. I now believe he was Satan. Not I believed he was Satan when I tried to kill him.
Right.
But now I'm of the firm belief that I have killed the Antichrist.
I mean, I tried to poison him and he didn't even blink.
People were just like, you're right, you did a great thing. Obviously, you've been proven right. Like, you basically drowned a witch. Great. Cool. I hate everything.
So, being attacked by Satan himself, Yusupov runs upstairs to the loose cannon. He's like, help, help! He's still alive! and Rasputin escapes. He runs out into the courtyard, and the loose cannon, I think they see him on a balcony. They run out after him, and the loose cannon fires 4 shots, 2 of which actually hit Rasputin, supposedly, probably, and he falls dead. For real this time, according to you.
For real.
Rasputin's still alive. Him and Tupac and Elvis Presley.
So Yusupov stops there as far as Rasputin needs to continuously be murdered. Other people will add the details that he then needed to be beaten to death, that the gunshots weren't enough. One, I don't know where they got it because I couldn't find a decent source, was that like Yusupov then took essentially a baseball bat to him. It's like, die, devil! But that's not his story. So, eventually, the 3 who went off to do the little car parade come back, and they wrap up Rasputin's body in, quote, heavy linen, unquote. They drive the body over to the large Petrovsky Bridge on the Neva River and throw him in. According to the loose cannon's version, which is very similar to Yusupov's, but not identical, they throw him in and then go, oh shit, we bought these weights to weigh down his body with, and we forgot to tie him up with the weights. Ah, well, we just throw him in the river after him.
He was Satan, so it was
He was the
okay.
reincarnation of Satan. He had made a deal with the devil. He was some sort of bad one. Factually, one of Rasputin's boots doesn't make it all the way to the river. It lands on the ice or nearby, and that's found. And they will then know where to start looking for bodies. So that's Yusupov's version. Yusupov's version is published in 2 different forms. Once under the title Rasputin in 1927, and then he revises it and publishes again in 1953 under the title Lost Splendor.
The audacity is high with these men.
Yeah.
Perishkevich's version that he publishes, as he claims as his diaries from the time, he published that in 1918, and his are similar to Yusupov's, not identical. The details for the most part don't differ significantly enough that we care. Both agree that it was Perishkevich who dealt the fatal bullet blow. Yeah, so his version includes, we brought these weights to weigh down the body. Oops. Ah, well. So his version is published in France in 1923. At that time, Maklikov, who was the lawyer who was not present but was in on it, he writes to that French publisher, saying, I did not supply any cyanide, but, quote, merely some harmless powder.
Bro, what did I say? The devil, was he? Raised from the dead with enough cyanide to kill an army, was he?
We also have, published in 1918, Lazavert, who told the New York Times that he and the murder friends shot Rasputin in the street. So that's real different.
And also makes much less sense logistically in terms of nobody witnessing the crime, like witnessing the original shots, not the 4 that loose cannon shot.
So why can't we trust any of these versions? Because they were involved in the murder.
And also they financially profited. All of them. We're like, I'm gonna write a book.
Yeah. Not only do they confess, rumors were going around even before Rasputin was dead. Like, we think that guy, not that guy specifically. They weren't like, Yusupov is definitely gonna kill you. But everyone was like, oh, Rasputin's gonna die soon.
He did foretell his own death, to be fair.
He has a lot of assassination attempts, Rasputin, so it's not surprising that someone finally killed him. But a lot of people at that time were like, there was some bodyguard friend, not a bodyguard, but kind of a bodyguard, probably like the secret police type bodyguard who was like, I'm staying with you all day, and then proceeded to not stay with him when it actually mattered. And so right after the murder, the loose cannon Persikovich is like going up to some buddies who are guards and is like, I killed Rasputin. And they're like, hell yeah. So, you know, a few days later, once the investigation's going on, it's not hard to get a confession out of any of these people. They just march up and say, yeah, we did it. He was bad. He was Satan. And so for this, the Yusupov family and Also, there's a Russian Revolution coming, spoilers. All of them involved in this are, exiled, sent out of Russia. The Yusupovs, they move around a lot, trying to be not rich anymore. When they are exiled, they just take what expensive things they can carry from their house and go out into the world. And so now they are much poorer than they're used to, and they've only got a few expensive objects to, sell. So it would be really convenient if we had some really interesting stories to publish and sell that might make us a few dollars. And what if we did it a second time?
So all of these people were just exiled?
For the most part, yeah. It's sent to the front lines, this, sent over there, that. I don't think anything happened to the lawyer. I'm not certain about that. He was able to just write to those French publishers and be like, hey, I didn't provide cyanide. Yeah, I knew that murder was going down and I, wanted it to happen. But it was a harmless substance. Harmless powder.
Well, you can't really trust him that it wasn't cyanide, but the context clues of the fact that nothing happened to him and he was still alive make me feel like he's telling the truth, but who knows?
Very interesting.
Can't really trust Yusupov's story because not only does he have financial gains, he's also, this story, as you might have noticed, is a little bit hyped up to sort of paint him as a hero. Because, he killed Satan. He's justifying his murder, both to himself and, the greater world of life. Yeah, I killed someone who was evil, and I was protecting my uncle, cousin, brother, nephew, czar, friend. I am a patriot. I love Russia. Rasputin is the problem.
Yeah.
Maybe his version isn't super reliable. There's also fun detail from Rasputin's daughter Maria. She'll write 3 books about Rasputin herself, and she is not such a trustworthy source for the most part, because, she adores him. Whatever. He's protected by God until he's not. But she says that Rasputin didn't even like sweets, so it's not probable that he ate all those poison cakes that they sent out for him. So that's interesting. Did he eat it at all? Some claim Rasputin drowned, or even that where they find his body, there are nail marks in the ice where he was trying to dig himself out. That's probably not true.
Threw him in the river, he still wasn't dead, and that he went under the existing ice and then couldn't get out.
Yeah, you drowned or hypothermia or, that
combination.
It's Russia in December, by the way, so yeah there's ice on that river.
Yeah.
There's more ice than water.
There's, photograph of his picture, too, of him dead, and he's got a bullet hole through his forehead. So I doubt anything else happened there. Oh, sorry.
The daughter, Maria, also is one who makes the claim that when they pull him out of the river and when she goes to identify the body, he is making a sign of the cross in one of his hands. So she's also not a great source.
Right.
There are photos of the body that are available to view. So where are you guys at? Well, I figure out where I'm at. What are your thoughts?
Either he didn't ingest the cyanide or there was no cyanide, and that the first hit wasn't actually in his chest, or it was in his chest, but it was closer to his shoulder than it was to his heart.
Was it a shotgun?
It was a revolver. It was not a shotgun.
Okay.
I think that part, the he just wouldn't go down part, is probably true.
I think it was just the general shock of it was exacerbated and over-exaggerated.
I do think that they probably thought he was the devil when he didn't go down, and they thought that they had given him enough cyanide to kill an army, and then had also shot him, and that I'm assuming just didn't have a reliable source of biology available to them to actually realize that the chest in general does not mean you die. Poorly planned, poorly executed, but I guess they did what they set out to do.
There's no question that he is dead because of them. Also, the Lazovert, who was the doctor who in 1918 told the New York Times that he and the murder friend shot Rasputin in the street, Later, when he was dying, he's an old guy, I don't remember when, he claims that at the time he had second thoughts about murdering him and so switched out the cyanide for some benign substance. Then, let's jump forward to 2004,
What?
where the British Secret Intelligence tries to claim that they are the ones who murdered Rasputin.
What? Like MI5?
Like the Secret Intelligence Bureau.
What?
Interesting.
They claim that Agent Oswald Rayner was doing some spying or whatever the fuck secret agents do in 1916 in Russia, and he knew Yusupov and worked with Yusupov, and he was the one who shot the murder blow. Their version says that the 3 bullets come from 3 different weapons.
Interesting.
It's not far-fetched to me. The only part is that this guy has not been mentioned absolutely at all as even being there. But I do understand that the others would lie for, like, personal financial gain to make themselves the hero of the story that was killing the devil that is Rasputin.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do understand why they would lie, but why would they include each other but not this guy?
Especially when you get to blame the British. Like, look at them. They're doing a murder. Obviously, he was Satan and he needed to die, but...
But also,
Right.
nobody was asking the British government if they had killed Rasputin, so it just seems like it should be
Not
true.
in 2004, they were.
Yeah, it just seems like it should be true, because why would the British government just be like, yeah, we had an agent, we had files, also we killed Rasputin in 2004? Why would they say that if that had nothing... If they didn't have any part in it at all? Maybe their agent didn't actually do the killing blow, but I feel like he had to have been there. Otherwise, why?
Their version also claims there is a forehead bullet, as Mikey pointed out. They're like, that means that it was a professional killer. Because no one else could figure that shooting someone in the head is... No one else would have ever thought of that. Had to be a professional murderer.
To be fair, Chip, they shot at him and tried to murder him unsuccessfully a bunch of times. I do understand their point that, like, no, all those horrible failed attempts of fake cyanide and 4 random shots into the air that somehow managed to hit him twice, that those were amateurs, and the one that actually got him actually in between the eyes in a place that would actually kill you and isn't your shoulder was a professional. Normally I would agree with you, but these are the most incompetent.
That was part of my thinking. I was looking into this, like, yeah, you think he's the devil, but, like, you're making yourself look bad. Why would you claim to be so bad at murdering someone? Like, we poisoned him, but he didn't die, and then we shot him, but it didn't die. We're not good at it.
Because playing up those things makes him seem like more of a devil.
I don't buy the British involvement. I don't buy it.
Just why would they, though? That's like the CIA putting and declassifying and putting in the CIA reading room that they killed Rasputin for absolutely no reason, unprompted, tomorrow.
The theory is that they were worried about Germany's Western and Eastern Front and Rasputin was trying to get the Tsar to make an alliance with Germany, and then Germany would have the full might of them two against the British on the Western Front.
That is the reasoning behind it, the justification of the story.
Yeah, but I don't buy it.
That makes even more sense to me.
I could be wrong, but according to what I read, researchers, when they went to find, documentation in declassified British records, there wasn't anything that actually indicated that this happened. There wasn't any old documents that said, oh yeah, Rayner's off to go kill anyone in Russia.
Well, I definitely wouldn't think there would be anything before 2004, because it's kind of like how we have tried to do research and do an episode on Dorothy Kilgallen, and she is linked to JFK. Previously, some of her stuff was declassified, but when JFK stuff got the re-up for the reclassification, all of her stuff disappeared off of the CIA and reading room in the FBI vault. So I'm imagining that there wouldn't have been hints of it, at the very least, up until 2004 when they said so.
Right.
Because before that, it would have been completely classified. They would have locked down any possible hint of it.
But I mean, if multiple people have multiple accounts throughout multiple years and the British involvement was never mentioned and there is no evidence, like, I just don't buy it.
But what you said about the mounting tensions with Germany and all of that, that made me think that he was a Brit. They knew that the spy was a Brit, and them acknowledging that they ever knew him would have been bad for them when they wrote their memoirs and talked about it.
But I mean, if the intelligence agency wants to claim this publicly and then have no document or proof of it, you know what I mean? It's like weird. It's hard to believe. Like, why are you claiming that? If you had the proof, you would show us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What is there to gain now in 2004 by claiming it?
Right.
Historians in general say the British weren't involved. There's your answer.
You would declassify it, wouldn't you? And not claim, and not even talk about it. Like, right? Isn't that the thing to do?
So, it turns out, only later, do we now have... Well, I couldn't find it. But that's because the book that supposedly has it in it, I couldn't access on the internet for free. But we now supposedly have the actual autopsy as performed after they found his body on January 1st, 1917. And the reason I really want to see the documents myself is because there are a minority of claims that claim something different on the autopsy than the most things claim on the autopsy. So, on January 1st, 1917, the body is found, and later that night, Dr. Dmitry Kosortov does an autopsy. He finds 3 bullet wounds, one on the left side of the chest, one in the back, and one on the forehead. He finds no trace of poison, and he finds no trace of water in the lungs, unless you believe other people who say that he said that he died of hypothermia.
I feel like we can officially count out the poison at this point. Yeah. Piece of evidence number 1, took enough to kill an army, didn't die, allegedly. 2, lawyer McFuckface saying, I didn't give them any poison. That was funny, though.
And then somebody else switched out the non-lethal poison.
The doctor's like, I also switched it out. I switched out your innocuous powder for my innocuous powder.
Yeah, so I feel like there was, and then autopsy. So that's 4 different cases, no poison. Poison doesn't exist anymore, as far as I'm concerned.
And then I'm kind of left wondering, did they even try to poison him at all? And this was purely a made-up fantasy that they sort of went with because they want to show that he's Satan.
Yeah, did they put the innocuous powder in the cake and then he never ate it and they got impatient and that's why they shot him the first time?
Because if the daughter's to be believed about him not liking sweets, which, you know, I'm willing to consider this. It's like, yeah, he wasn't going to eat a whole plate of cakes. He was known to drink a lot, and some of it was in wine.
But still, I don't know anybody that would eat an entire plate of cakes.
They aren't like cakes, these are like little cakes. They're petits fours, however you pronounce things in France.
Okay.
I forgot the best detail about the cakes. The cakes were these little petit fours, bonbons like things, and they were chocolate ones and pink ones, and they poisoned all the pink ones.
That feels homophobic. I don't like it. They were like, pick that one, you die. Except for the colors were switched at that point in history. Pink was for boys and blue was for girls. Don't listen to me. I just think I'm funny. I'm high on cold medicine. I'm sorry.
Speaking of queer, one of Maria, who is Rasputin's daughter, one of her claims is that Yusupov, our number 1 main murderer, tried to seduce Rasputin, and thus, when he was spurned, wanted to then murder him.
Ah, interesting.
Obviously, we're subscribing to that theory. The love story aspect. We're always looking for it, and here it is. Dropped right into our lap.
Here it is.
The same direction, but much later, after the fact, more modern of, we'll say, the 90s type Russian nationalists, specifically the Orthodox Church of Russia, now trying to paint Rasputin is a poor innocent angel sent by God, and Yusupov is the evil bisexual who's going around murdering God's people.
Ow.
I mean, that's essentially what, Rasputin's daughter is saying. It's not different.
It's different when, like, you say it about somebody that killed your dad, though, than the government saying it. Like, the agenda...
It's not the government, it's the church.
Still, than the church saying it. She's like, my dad spurned his advances. Not that he was evil because he was gay. And the other one feels, cool, it's fine.
Right.
Incompetent by murderers. First of all, before the murder even took place, whispering, I'm gonna murder Rasputin. And then directly afterwards go out and start whispering, I killed Rasputin. And then, like, the cops knock on your door. And you're like, I didn't kill Rasputin. Yeah, we tried to kill him, but he's the devil. And so he just stood up, and then we shot him, and he stood up again. Stop standing up. So, I do think Rasputin, bad person. But the one thing I do sort of cheer for him is that he was just a nobody peasant.
Yep.
And he just scammed his way up to the top with the literal king and queen.
Mm-hmm.
But no, then he became fucking famous and is supposedly seducing the queen, the Tsarina.
This has been very enlightening.
I knew that he was, like, accused of having sex with multiple people when he worked as a healer, even before he got high up.
So, the sect of his Orthodox Christianity does, in some times, have the orgy thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
But, he wasn't actually, like, ordained or anything. He was not officially part of the church, but in that way. He wasn't, like, a certified preacher. You remember earlier when I spoke of any similarity to persons living or dead that this fiction depicts is coincidental?
Yes.
That law exists because of Yusupov.
Interesting.
And right now, you're going to think because someone depicted him as a murderer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wrong. It did depict him as a murderer. But the reason they sued and then won was that because this movie that was like, it was a fictionalized account, but everyone knew that we were talking about the Rasputin and everyone. It depicted that Rasputin had seduced Yusupov's wife.
So that's what he was mad about.
And she had been taken in by that lecherous saint. That's what they sued for, and that's what they won, and that's why that disclaimer now exists.
Interesting.
He admitted to murdering him, so he can't go back and say, you depicted me as a murderer. So he had to find something. And that was the hill that he chose to die on, I guess. It's probably because it's one of the only untrue things.
He had never even met his wife. He was going there to meet her. It's just that his Wikipedia, Yusupov's, has, headers, killing of Rasputin and death, the classics, and then lawsuits. They sued MGM in the English courts for libel and invasion of privacy for the film Rasputin and the Empress. They were awarded £25,000, £1,800,000 in modern money, equivalent of $23 million US today.
Wow.
That's why we have all persons fictitious, living or dead disclaimers.
What a strange tie-in that I did not see coming.
That one really broke me.
Out of all of the things, because it's a thing that we do now, consistently.
I have a fun fact. Rasputin was buried at a small church, and the funeral was only attended by the imperial family and a few inmates. Rasputin's wife, mistress, and children were not invited, although his daughters did meet with the imperial family later that day.
Bro, what?
At some point, I forgot it.
Yeah, they didn't want his believers and, like, following and supporters to, like, rally.
I don't know, you would think that at least his family...
But if his family would tell the supporters, like, they want probably revenge.
Yeah, but wouldn't they be like, they won't even let us see our dead father and dead husband? That seems like more contentious than...
It's bizarre.
We hope you enjoyed this episode on the death of Rasputin.
In conclusion, Rasputin wasn't magic. Except for when he then later sold his soul to the devil to have the magic vial of murder. Okay, because we're talking about Anastasia. This thing that has always bothered me is the grandmother. Because
together in Paris. Chip?
No. Why doesn't he try to murder her? She is portrayed as the king's mom. She is the mother of the Tsar. She is also the blood of the people he is cursing. Why isn't she murdered by the goblin ghosts? Why is she allowed to live in Paris?
I mean, I just assumed that after they were dead and the family was dissolved, that it didn't matter whether she lived or died anymore, as long as she wasn't, like, going to rise up and rebuild the throne.
It's just that she's the blood relative.
It's strange.
It's not like
very
she's
strange.
She's not the
But
Serena's
she's
mom.
old and she can't have kids anymore and she can't rebuild the family.
Yeah. But guys, there's a talking bat.
Yeah, that's, you know?
He's the best
Yeah.
character. So second best character, Puka, the pupper.
My friend talks just like Bartok, and sometimes randomly when I see him, I'll just be like, please. And he gets so annoyed, and then he finally does it. I'm like, thank you.
Until next time, he's Chip.
That one's Mikey.
And that's Moe.
Bye.
You just listened to the Deep Dark Truth Podcast. See you next time. And remember, your local cryptids want to meet you.